Welcome to our Speaking to Spirit series. Tonight will be another very interesting night. We will be speaking to a very famous French historical character, Joan of Arc. For those of you who are not familiar with her, she was a very, very instrumental person helping out during the 100 Years' War in France. Her story is very amazing, and we are going to bring it to you tonight. So, without any delay, I will ask Connie to start asking her the questions, and we will begin.
Okay. Joan, did you ever serve God in any lifetimes prior to that of Joan of Arc?
Yes, I've served him multiple times in my lifetime. In particular, I served him shortly after his passing. I tried to assist St. Paul in the work that he did at the time.
Have you reincarnated since that time as Joan?
Yes, I've served multiple lifetimes since my lifetime as Joan. I served in the beginning. I always seem to be drawn towards military circumstances. I served as a nurse in World War I and passed shortly after the war, and I then served as a nurse in World War II in your army, and I was killed fighting in the Pacific. So yes, I've had multiple lifetimes. I actually come back quite often.
Would you describe your childhood for us?
In my lifetime as Joan, I was born to a very poor peasant family. It was a rural family. We farmed our land, and we were very poor. I had no formal education, and as many of the children of my time. But my family loved me, and I loved them as well.
Would you describe the words that you heard in your head?
At an early age, I began hearing messages in my head. At first I thought I was crazy, but then I realized that they were coming from heavenly spirits, and the messages they were giving me made much sense. They kept telling me that I was to serve God, and that even though I was a person of relative insignificance, I could have a great impact in serving God in many ways.
You had that right. Do you know exactly who it was that was talking to you? Which guides?
I always thought that it was my angels that were speaking to me, and in certain instances there were angels. But when I got back on the other side, I was introduced to my guides that were helping me. I also had help from many of the Holy Spirits, just the same as you and Connie have help in doing what you're doing. But it was a combination. Where I thought it was specifically all angels, I found out that I had a lot more help than I ever realized.
Yeah. Could you describe some of your other messages from them?
They told me that God was watching over me and that I had been sent back on a mission. They told me that I was to try to find the King of France and become involved with him militarily, and that I would be able to provide inspiration for his forces. At the time that I grew up, our king was not doing very well in fighting. The war had been raging for generations, and the English, in cooperation with some of the French, had taken over the northern part of our country. It was truly a time when they needed inspiration and the help of God.
Were you actually a psychic?
I think you could refer to me as that, as you now are, as your abilities have become apparent. You now know that psychic abilities come in many different forms. But yes, I was receiving messages much as you received messages, and I would refer to myself as having psychic abilities.
Did you have visions?
There were times that that in my mind's eye I would see battles and I would see military men and men in armor. Yes, I would have, my visions would come. They were mental, and I guess it is as you now refer to as through your third eye.
Did you make predictions that actually came true?
I told King Charles that if I was allowed to accompany the military, that he would have a great victory. So yes, that was a vision that I foresaw and one that I told him.
So why did you join the military?
There was really little choice if I was going to act as an inspiration for my king. As I mentioned earlier, he had been involved in fighting for generations. His father and grandfather before him had been involved in fighting. So there was really no other choice. In those days, it was the military or not the military. We did not have in those days, we did not have the choices you currently have for different types of occupations or ways to pursue spreading the words of our Lord.
So how did you persuade the king to let you, a female, join the military?
I found people close to him that I could convince through some minor predictions that I did truly have some abilities. The first time they introduced me to him, he laughed at me and did not allow me to proceed. I then spent some more time with my friends and became very involved with the messages that I was getting in my head. They managed to get me to the king one more time, and this time I convinced him that I really could be of service.
Did you eventually become a commander?
No, I was never an officer as such. I always acted in more of a role where I advised them. I would see visions and I would advise them that I thought that this is the way that they should move the forces or that they should attack the enemy. But I never truly had an officer's role.
What did the other soldiers think?
At first they did not know what to think. But then as we began to have victories, they truly believed that I had special powers given to me by God. Towards the end of my time with them, they were true believers that I really was sent by God to help them.
What role did you play in the battle for Orleans?
I was an advisor, and I felt that the British were ill-prepared to truly lay siege to the town of Orleans. I advised them to attack in another area, and when that attack proved successful, the English withdrew, and all were convinced that I truly did have the ability to look to the future.
Did you actively participate in that battle, or did you just serve as an advisor?
No, I did not actively, as you would call it, engage. I held a banner and I led the troops to act as an inspiration. They knew that that I was there with them by the fact that they could see the banner that I was holding.
How many battles did you participate in?
If you count minor ones, I guess 3 or 4. We would have skirmishes with the enemy, and especially when we tried to move forward and attack Paris. But as you know, that proved to be a mistake.
Did you ever actually kill someone?
No. I did carry a sword, and I was prepared to use it, but the men would always protect me, that it was never necessary for me personally to kill anyone.
How were you wounded?
We were trying to lay siege, and I was struck by an arrow. The arrow hit a weak spot in my armor on my shoulder.
Could you describe the wound any further?
The wound penetrated fairly deeply into my shoulder, and I can tell you that it certainly hurt a lot. They carried me back from the battle, from the scene of the battle, and they attempted to dress my wound for me. It was a typical arrow of the time that would have been used against those that were trying to lay siege to a city. The wound probably was 2 to 3 inches deep into my shoulder, but fortunately it never struck anything where it would cause permanent damage.
Okay. Where did you learn military tactics?
I could only follow the words that were being put into my head. I never had any formal training in military tactics. I would give advice, and when that advice would work, those around me built great confidence in my abilities.
Okay, was your healing a miracle?
My shoulder wound should have had lasting implications, but God did intervene and helped to heal me very rapidly so that I could return to remain as an inspiration for the forces.
Okay. What charges were brought against you?
After I was captured, they brought charges of heresy against me.
Can you describe that trial for heresy?
There was no trial. I was totally set up. They all lied about what I did. They said that I acted as a heretic, that I spoke against God, that I did many, many things. They even brought up the fact that while I was in armor, I wore men's clothes, and that was at that time the act of a heretic. Even when they brought me documents to sign, that they told me one thing, and since I could not read the documents, meant that I was confessing to to the crimes that they were accusing me of. I was not allowed any type of legal representation, and I was totally on my own through the so-called trial. There was really nothing I could do. Their minds were made up before we began.
What was your opinion of Islam?
I was really kind of neutral towards Islam. I felt that there were good people that were members of the Islamic faith, and we were preoccupied by trying to fight our countrymen in English at the time. I knew in the past they spoke of the Great Crusades, but I never really felt as negative towards Islam as many of the others did.
Were you ever molested when you were in jail?
They attempted to molest me on several occurrences. I tried to wear men's clothes as a protection, but they would lay their hands on me and they would do pretty much as they wished. Sadly, there were times that I could not totally defend myself.
That's so sad. Was there a time when you failed to believe in God when you were going through all of that?
Yes, I am so sorry to say that there was a time that I asked, why was God putting me through all this? I was in jail, I was being molested, I was being maligned, I was being accused of being a heretic, and I knew exactly what the fate of being a heretic would lead to. Sadly, there were days where I thought God had truly forsaken me. I renewed my faith, and I prayed to him, and I asked for his forgiveness, which I received.
Did you feel the pain when you were burned at the stake?
Yes, although I do think that God intervened to help lessen what I felt. I was blessed by the fact that I became unconscious fairly rapidly from the smoke, but I did feel pain. I did, as I was at the stake, the only words that I was able to, that I uttered were the name Jesus, and he protected me and brought me home. Once my soul passed from my body, he was waiting for me.
How old were you at the time of your death?
I was around 19 years of age.
Are you a member of the soul family of God?
Yes, I can honestly say that I have served him enough through the ages that I am considered a member of his soul family.
Yeah. So who all greeted you when you reached the other side?
It was a wonderful time. Jesus was there to greet me himself. There were some of his saints were with him. St. Paul and St. Peter were along. My family members were there, and it was a wonderful reunion when I returned home from my short life.
Are you surprised that you became a saint?
Yes, frankly, I am. I never realized that I was such an inspiration for the members of the Catholic Church. The French were, as you understand, were totally Catholic in their faith. After my death, the Pope did what he could to overturn the results of the fake trial, and as it turned out, I did receive sainthood.
Are you planning to reincarnate?
When God asks me to return, I will certainly do it. I will come back in any way, manner, or form in which He chooses for me to serve Him.
Yeah. Do you have a final message for our listeners?
I would thank everybody for allowing me to come through tonight and for paying attention to my words. I was but a very common person, but when God spoke to me, I was able to accomplish amazing things. Each of you should understand that through His powers, you are capable of accomplishing amazing things as well. Think of me as a model for what you can do. I was an uneducated young girl of 15 that left home and became an inspiration to the French army and became a target of all the English and their hatred against the French at the time. I managed to persevere and to serve God. I remained true to His beliefs, and I want you to understand just how powerful our God really is. Once again, thank you for allowing me to come through tonight. I hope that those of you who have taken time to listen will pay attention to my words and understand that you as well can accomplish what God wants you to accomplish. All you need is the confidence to go out and try to follow His words. And with this message, I would like to say good night. God bless all of you, and thank you for allowing me to speak to you.
Thank you for coming through for us.
Thank you very much, Joan. That was very impressive, and you were an amazing young lady in your life. So with that, we are going to say good night. God bless. If you enjoy what you've been watching, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. We will be bringing you many, many more sessions such as this. Thank you and good night.
Good night and God bless.